Right. Good evening to you all. I hope and trust that you had a very good week. Can you all hear me before I start?
Yes, we can
Yes,
hear
we
you.
can hear you.
Okay, that's good. I think today is our first lecture in as far as the revision is concerned. So basically, we are just looking at the questions that will be addressing some of the topics that we went through. So it's basically the application of what we already know. It's basically trying to make sense of what we were talking about all these weeks. So I've been trying to get a question paper that is relevant to what we actually discussed, especially in the study guide. And this is one of the question papers that I got. So from the questions that are here, there are some of the questions that are actually not part of the syllabus or the study guide that we went through, like question number 2 and question number 5 and 6. So today we will look at question number 1, and then we'll look at question number 3 and question number 4. So we'll start with question number 1. I think today, to make it a bit more interesting, I would actually welcome your input as well, suggestions, what you think in terms of the question. I must apologize that maybe I sent the question paper a bit late. I'm so sorry, the week was a bit hectic, but I think maybe since you had the question paper yesterday, maybe you just had the chance just to browse it through. So today we'll be discussing. I won't be the only one talking. I also want you to speak. But let me take you through the question number 1 and maybe give a background and maybe how we can try to answer the question. Now, the question here is with reference to the case study above. Now, there is a case study which we'll go through together. With reference to the case study above, discuss at which stage in the product life cycle Gillette is. Now, this question is talking about the product life cycle. I think it's still fresh in our mind. We spoke about this topic, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And I think I did introduce this kind of a question to you. But then now we have to answer it in detail by referring to the case study, what the case study is saying, and how best we can approach the question. Now, basically, this is our case study. I just want to find out from you, did you by any chance went through this question paper? I know it came to you late, but I just want to know if maybe you went through this question paper by any chance, so that I know where to start.
I actually look at Lideli, they're saying no. I actually went through it, and yes. I'll tell you, I tried to answer. I'll tell you the one that I tried to answer.
Okay.
Unless I'm confused. Unit 4, steps in the consumer decision. No, was it not on this question paper? And I noticed the micro, the one that was on our assignment, macro or micro. Also, and the new product development processes. I'm not sure if they're on this question paper, but these are the three in actual fact.
Okay, yes, on the question paper, I think is the product life cycle, the new product development process, and the macro environmental factors. All right, so, okay, let me check what, okay, all right, no, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. No. All right, no, it's fine. Let's go through it. I think the main issue is how to approach the question. I think that's the main issue. So I will be going back to the case study as we will be answering the question. So if you didn't go through it, it's still fine. It's okay. It's not a problem. Right. So let's start now. Now, with reference to the case study above, discuss at which stage in the product life cycle Gillette is. Use a diagram to illustrate your answer. Now, before we can look at the case study, I believe you all know what a product life cycle is. Let me just go to the study guide so that we actually walk step by step with each other. Right. So let's go to the case study. Let's go, to the study guide. Now, this is basically our study guide, and we are looking at the product life cycle. I'm trying to find a way the product. I think it's unit. Okay, unit 7, page 105. We are on page 105. Bear with me a bit. Bear with me. Bear with me. Here we go. Right. Right, here we go. This is the product life cycle. And basically we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stages. But then we are trying to determine or to ascertain the stage that Gillette is. So basically to approach or to answer this question, okay, page 115, I think it's on page, yeah, page 115, 116. Thank you. Right. So how to approach this question? What I would advise is you briefly talk about the product life cycle. Briefly talk about the different stages of product before you can talk about the what. Before you can identify. Can you? Okay. Thank you. Before you can identify the product, the stage that Gillette is in. Now I've prepared more like an answer, an answer for that, so that you would know what to do when you are answering the question. So let me go to the answer, and then I'll take you through how it is supposed to be done. Right, here we go. What I would first do, first of all, we have to look at the structure of our essay. How are we going to structure our essay? Now, number one, we have to come up with an introduction. Now, an introduction is very important because it informs the reader or whoever is going to mark your paper what you intend to say in the essay. So normally what I would encourage people to do, because people have got different styles of writing, what I would encourage you, maybe as a general advice, I would say that first of all, start by defining the key concept. Now, in this case, the key concept is product life cycle. So basically define what is product life cycle. And then when you have defined what is product life cycle, state at least one importance of products life cycle. Why should we study products life cycle? Why should a company study product life cycle? And then when you do that, then you introduce, you then say maybe the aim of this essay or the purpose of this essay is to discuss the stage in which Gillette is in terms of the what? In terms of the product life cycle. This is just a general advice, but you know your writing style, you know how you can try to introduce, but I'm just giving like a general advice. And then in this case, how to approach this question, I think we have to explain first the concept of product life cycle. What is the concept of product life cycle? So here now, you see my numbering here, I've got my question 1, and then my introduction will start at 1.1. If it's an assignment, then you should ensure that you reference whatever that you write is not yours. Now, in this case, I didn't reference anything. It was just we use this as a baseline for answering our question. So now 1.2, then I would say the concept of product life cycle. What is product life cycle? We want to talk about that concept before we can relate it to the case study. So then now I would define the product life cycle as the process a product goes through when it is first introduced into the market until it declines or is removed from the market. The life cycle is 4 stages. Now we can see it's coming out nicely. You're introducing it bit by bit. The life cycle is 4 stages, namely, in this case, some they can say a new product. It can be 5, it can be 4. It only depends. Now I'm going to talk about 4. The life cycle has 4 stages, namely introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. Now the question is, say you should also use a diagram to answer your question. So the product life cycle can be illustrated by figure 1.1 below. Now this is my figure. So when you put a figure, if it's an assignment, you should label the figure. I think I didn't label the figure here. Make sure that you label your figure. So my figure here, if it's question 1, the figure would automatically be 1.1. So my figure is what? Product life cycle. Right. That's my figure here. Right. And then make sure you have a source. If it's an assignment, make sure where did you get this figure? A source, you reference it here. If it's James 2019, page 188, then you reference it like this. In an exam, they don't require you to reference, so you don't need to reference. But if it's an assignment, make sure that your figure is labeled, is clearly labeled, figure of 1.1, product life cycle, and then you put a source here to say James 2019, page 188. And then now we are going to talk about the introduction stage. You are just taking through the reader the product life cycle so that you show him that you know what a product life cycle is before you can apply it to the case study. So then now we start at the introduction stage. We did speak about it. We said this is the first stage here when a product is what is being introduced. So the key points here is to look at the characteristics of the introduction stage, right? So in this introduction stage, we can see that the profit is minimal. There is no a profit. The profit is too little because you are trying to introduce the product to the market. You are trying to create an awareness. You are trying to make the product known to the what? To the people. And the objectives of this introduction stage is to create consumer awareness and stimulate trial so that people can know that, okay, fine, there is a new kid on the block. There's a new product that has been introduced in the what? In the market. And basically in this stage, it is when companies spend a lot of money on advertising so that they can make their product be known with what? With the customers in that what? In that particular market, which means you have to invest in a lot of advertising and stuff. So these are the characteristics of the introduction stage. So now you are keeping it in mind that, okay, fine, these are the characteristics. After I'm done explaining these stages, I'll then go back and see if Gillette has got, which characteristics does Gillette have in terms of the stages that I've gone through. Now there's what is known as the growth stage, which is the second stage in the life cycle, which follows the introduction stage. Now, what is the characteristics of the growth stage? Now, this is when the sales starts to what? To grow. Because here, according to our diagram here, you can see that the sales are gradually now growing because people are now becoming aware of the product. They've now bought the product, they've now used it, they can see if it works or not. So basically in this stage, it is a stage where a company is trying to capture a market share or is trying to get as many customers as possible, because most of the work would have been done in the introductory stage where you would have advertised the product to the what? To the consumers. So now the consumers are now becoming aware of the product in the growth stage. So basically your sales are starting to increase gradually, bit by bit, and profit is now picking up, during this growth stage. And then the competitors are now seeing that, okay, fine, I think this product is being accepted by people. That's when they will start to come in bit by bit into the what? Into the market. So here the goal now, because the competitors are now coming in bit by bit, the goal now is to compare the product benefits with the what? With the competitors, because you are trying to beat the competitors. You are trying to come up with a strategy to ensure that your product gets the what? The larger what? The larger market share. In other words, you are trying to establish a what? A market share. Like it is written here, the goal is to build a market share by highlighting the superior characteristics of the products versus the products of the competitors. So you focus much on what? On differentiation. Now on the maturity stage, this is a stage that comes after the growth stage. Now the characteristics of the maturity stage is that this is where the sales have increased, because the people now are now settled. They are now satisfied with your what? With your product. And if you can come to my diagram here, you can see that this is where the sales reaches its what? Its peak. The company is established the market share in the growth stage, and now at the maturity stage, the company now is trying to maintain now that market share, because already you have customers here. The customers are buying your products. They now know your products very well. But then it is at this stage that there's a lot of competition. This is when most competitors, would come in. Some would even imitate your product, or some would improve on your product so that they get customers away from what? From you. So basically at this stage, the sales are at their what? At their peak. and the competition is very, very high, and it requires an organization to be very innovative, sometimes to modify its products so that it actually meets the demands of the customers. That's why you see even those that sell phones, when that product is at the maturity stage, they try to come up with additional features on that product or that phone so that they maintain or they keep up with the changing demands of the customers. So maturity is when the sales are at the peak, but this is when they are about to slow down. The sales are at the peak, but they are just about to slow down, because in a way people are becoming a little bit fed up with your product. That's the reason why you have to be you have to be innovative. So here what we are saying is the attention here is to direct all your efforts towards holding a market share, because remember, you've built a market share in the growth stage. Here now you are trying to maintain that market share, to maintain the clientele base or the customer base, and by employing different strategies, product differentiation, innovation, etc. So the marketing objective in the maturity stage is to maintain brand loyalty, and then the company is trying to maintain the market share that would have been established in the growth stage. Now the decline stage, this is the last stage, and the characteristics here are that the sales and the profits, they start to decline, right? They start to decline. You can see here by the diagram here, the decline stage. The sales here are starting to decline. They were at the peak at maturity, but you know, when you're at the maturity stage, anything can happen now. Your sales might decline. So you have to do something here to ensure that your sales doesn't decline. You have to innovate. You have to add new features to your product so that you meet the demands, because here the customers will be very demanding, because remember, there's a lot of competition at this stage. There's a lot of competitors that have just come in. So the customers have what is known as low switching costs. They can easily leave your product and go to another competitor. So it is very important here to be very, very innovative so that you meet the demands of the and otherwise, if you don't do that, your product will go in the decline stage. And examples of products that went at a decline stage, I don't know if you know anything about the typewriters. Long time ago, they used to have typewriters which were actually replaced by competitors because of the changing needs, the changing demands of customers. There's what is known as cloud technology, which is replacing the USB drives and other storage devices. And also in terms of the computers, you know, those PCs, those computers that comes with CPUs and stuff, you can see that it's very few people that have got those computers. Many people are using laptops. It's because these products have declined. You know, they could not meet the changing demands of the customers, right? So after explaining the different stages that a product goes through, what is really the stage that Gillette is in, right? What is really the stage that Gillette is in? Now, if you take into account, I'll switch very soon to the question paper, but I just want to explain first. Now, considering the facts presented in the question paper, let me, just to avoid confusion, let me go back to the question paper. Forgive me for that, so that we do it properly. Where is the question paper? Okay, right. This is my question. Okay, now let me just go. Now, when you have this kind of a question where there is a case study, like now I've just explained to you the different characteristics of each stage. What you need to do now is to go in the case study with the characteristics in mind, and then try to pick up the characteristics that you are getting into the case study. Now here, according to the case study, they are saying Mr. KC Gillette devised and marketed the first razor, safety razor, in 1901. So you can see that the product or the razor or the product was actually introduced in 1901. So this can now tell you that this product is past already the introduction stage. It is no longer in the introduction stage. It was introduced long time ago. So basically, it cannot fit in the what? In the introduction stage. So here it's written the company already. The company actually successfully marketed the what? The product, which means it went through the introduction stage. It was advertised there in the introduction stage, and people became aware of the what? Of the product. So which means we can cancel, we can rule out the introduction the introduction stage. So the company also is always been the first to be in the market, and has always tried to meet the increasing diverse demands of the what? Of the product. And I just want to locate where they say that the performance of the razor has been rated highly. It has been described as the what? Is the perfect shape. You can see here, looks and style are increasing, but to the person looking for it is the razor's performance that matters most of all. So which means in terms of performance, the razor, the product, was rated highly as being a what? A perfect shave. And you can see here that the product has gone through the what? The stages. Now, if you come here on this second paragraph, this is the most interesting and the most interesting paragraph, which they're saying that market research suggests that most people who shave find it a chore. Many resent the time they devote to it. So you can see now that people have already used this for a long time. And then they have, because of their changing needs and changing demands, they are now being fed up with the time taken by shaving using a what? A razor blade, which means that possibly this product also passed through the growth stage. It's no longer in the growth stage because people are becoming fed up. Remember, on the growth stage, people are now embracing the product. This is where the sales are increasing, because people are now becoming aware. They are embracing the product. But then when somebody is getting a bit fed up with the product, it means he has used the product over and over and over again, and he has noticed some form of a weakness on the product. And in this case, people now are resenting the time they devote in shaving using the what? Using the razor blade, which means this is not in the growth stage. So the introduction and the growth stage are what? Are ruled out just by this statement. But let's keep on going. Let's keep on going. So now let's look at the maturity stage now. Now we say that one of the characteristics of the maturity stage is intense competition, because it is where there is the peak of the sales, which means that there is a lot of people that are buying the product, which attracts a lot of competitors. So when competitors are attracted, it means that market at that stage is got very fierce or intense what? Intense competition, which is one characteristic of a what? Of a maturity what? Or maturity stage. Because here competitors will come with their own products, or they can imitate the same product that you are what? That Gillette is what? Is using. So we can see according to this case study. Let me read something here. Right here, you can see people are complaining here. They're saying that the time they devote to is the time is very long time to what? To shave. So they want a product which not only shortens the time spent shaving, but which also does the best job and makes the experience pleasurable and what? And fulfilling. So the customers are changing their needs now. They used to buy it, it was okay, but now they are changing their needs because of what? Because of competition. There's other competitors that are offering an alternative. So for a manufacturer, these requirements represent a tough challenge. Now, meeting this challenge involves, now this is what I want you to catch. Meeting this challenge involves Gillette coming up with good ideas for product improvement, and then taking advantage of what? Of modern technology to convert them into economically viable what? Viable products. Now, this is one of the characteristics of maturity, what? Maturity stage, because here the company is required to come up with innovative measures so that they can be able to match the demands of the what? Of the customers, and be able to outmaneuver or to overrun their what? Their competitors, because there is intense competition in this what? In this stage. So this is the reason why this company developed what is their research and development department is evidenced by the number of inventions that they introduced. Now, these are the inventions that they introduced. You can see that they've been inventing their razor blade since 1972. See, this is proof enough that it's no longer in the introduction stage, it's no longer in the growth stage, but it is at its peak. So where it is at its peak, because you don't want to go in the decline stage, you invent, you innovate, you become creative so that you meet the needs and wants of the customers that change rapidly. So twin-bladed razor in 1972, these are inventions since 1972, 1976, 1979, 1980, 1992, up to 2004. They were trying to alter or to modify their products so that they don't slip into the what? Into the decline stage. So the stage that Gillette is in right now is the maturity what? The maturity stage. Let me go to my Word document. Right. So considering the facts presented in the article, now you are now answering the question. You got the facts now. So you're now considering those facts. So considering the facts presented in the article, it can be argued, it can be said, whichever way you want to put it, that Gillette is in the maturity stage. So at this stage, the product requires constant alterations or modifications to lengthen its lifespan and avoid the possibility of reaching the decline stage. So you can see, according to this to the case study, the speed with which Gillette has been altering its products indicate that the intensity of competition there is high intensity. It indicates that there is high intensity in terms of competition in the market for what? For shaving blades, which is proof enough that it is what? It is the maturity stage. So this is the reason why the company established a vibrant research and development department, as evidenced by the what? By the number of inventions introduced to the market since 1972, which was what I was explaining. Now, in addition, the preferences of customers are changing rapidly, because remember, the customers started to resent those razor blades, saying that they have to devote a lot of time using the what? Using that razor blade. So now, because of technology that is coming up, you know, Gillette was supposed to come up with innovative measures that ensures that if somebody is using their product, the time of using that product is shortened, so that somebody doesn't spend a lot of time shaving using the razor, right? So continuous development of the product demonstrates that the product is approaching the decline stage. Hence, there was a need to what? To modify the features of the product so that you link it or you align it with the new trends on the market, because the technology is dynamic. It keeps on changing each and every what? Each and every time. So in addition, Gillette, you can see Gillette has been in the market since 1901. Gillette has been in the market for a long time, which means they've already established a market share, which means they've already passed the growth stage. Because remember, the growth stage is all about establishing the market share. And then the maturity stage, it's maintaining. Now, if they've been in the market for a long time, it means that they've already established the market share. What they are doing right now is to try to maintain the market share. They have to maintain the market share. That's why they are altering the features of the product, because they don't want to slip into the decline stage. They want to maintain the market share. This implies that there's a substantial amount of market share. In other words, they created already a brand name. They are known since 1901. So everyone knows about Gillette. The brand name has already been established because they passed through the introduction stage where they advertised extensively so that the people became aware of their product since 1901. In growth stage, they established their market share. People started to know about the product. But then in maturity stage, where the sales were so high, that's when now they had to maintain their market share so that they don't slip in the what? In the decline stage. So they need to defend their market share through product innovations. So basically, this is how you can try to approach the what? Approach the question. When you go through the case study, you can also try to identify some of the you can identify some of the characteristics that that you can use also to support your what? To support your answer. But these are some of the characteristics that have what? That have identified. So by elaborating on the different stages from introduction to decline stage, it gives you the depth to be able to identify exactly which stage is Gillette in terms of the product life cycle, what product life cycle stage. So I don't know if there's how much out of 20 can the Maga give me if I explain the concept without. No, I think there is marks that comes through because of explaining the concept, because you are actually trying to let know the reader that you know what you're talking about. And also by elaborating on the different stages, you are setting a baseline or a foundation to be able to identify the characteristics that Gillette is in. In terms of the marks, it can be maybe half of the marks. It can be possibly half of the marks, but the main core of that question is for you to be able to have the ability to identify the stage that Gillette is in. So in terms of the marks, maybe you might get, if you don't apply it to the case study, you might get maybe less than half. It is important now to what? To apply, because application now, you are showing the marker that you understand the concept, because what they want to see is your understanding of the what? Of the concept, not just to write theory, because anyone can just copy from the internet and paste without even knowing what that concept means. Now, by identifying now, by linking it to the case study, now you are showing now your understanding of the what? Of the concept of product what? Of product life cycle. Right? Is there anyone who want to add something, to ask something, to comment and stuff, so that we move forward?
So Jabu,
Yes.
Like here on this question, because it say discuss at which stage in the product life cycle it's Gillette in. So I need to give them like the product from the introduction stage. Okay, I explain those stages, and then perhaps take one stage and say, okay, they are at this stage at this point in time.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Oh no, I was actually, I was still listening. So you were saying, you were asking that question to say, okay, yes, that's how you can try to approach it. By elaborating on the different stages. Remember that diagram is showing all these different stages. So
Yeah.
you are elaborating that this is what the concept of product life cycle entails, right? But in the context of the case study, with the information that you have provided above in terms of the different stages, Gillette is in this stage because of so and so, because it matches the characteristics of the maturity stage that has been highlighted above. Like for instance, intense competition, high sales growth and stuff, and then you support it with what? With the literature in the case study. So by so doing that, you should be able to get the maximum marks.
All right, meaning I can start to give a brief explanation onto the other stages, but detailed explanation that I match with what we call with the case study is the main one that I've identified.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. Yes. Right. Anyone else with maybe an addition, maybe something that he thinks can be of help to us or others? I would really appreciate it. Right. So let's go to the other question. Right, we go straight to question 3. Question 3 is saying here, comprehensively discuss the steps in the new product development process. Now, I think you would agree with me that this question is very, very easy. The reason why I'm saying that is it only requires you to discuss the steps. You don't have to apply it to any case study or whatever. You are just discussing the steps of product life cycle. I mean, of new product development process. Sorry. So this is the development process. Remember, we spoke about those stages, about the new product development, new product development process. This is a very, very easy question, And let me just, but please don't take it lightly. Approach each question, without underrating it. Okay. So basically, like I always say, please, when you're writing an essay or even an exam, the structure remains the same. You start with your introduction, right? You introduce what you want to say, and when you write your was the assignments, you should be very, very organized. Like you see my numbering here, so that even when the marker is marking, it's easy for him to identify what you've written if things comes by headings and subheadings and with what? With proper numbering, right? So here, comprehensively discuss the steps in the new product development process, right? So now my second subheading is now steps in the new product development process. Now there are 8 steps in the new product development process, and they include idea generation and. Now the process can be illustrated by figure 2.1. Like I said that time, if you can find figures, the better. There's an extra, sometimes the markers, they can just, like your presentation, sometimes even if you don't write maybe what is required, but maybe just by the presentation, they can favor you in terms of what? In terms of marking. So this is, now it's question 2. So my figure becomes figure 2.1. New product development process, and here source, you put the what? Put the author of this diagram, right? Right. So let's go to the study guide. If anyone knows the way I think it's on the same it's on the same unit. It's on the same unit.
Page 109.
Page 109. Thank you very much. Page 109. Now, the reason why I'm going back to the study guide is just for you to see that it's coming from the study guide. I'm just trying to make you see that, what we discuss in the study guide is actually what will be asked. They will ask everything that comes from, they don't ask anything that is outside the study guide. So this is the development process. This is our development process. So basically, according to the diagram you can see I've taken it from this study guide as well. So the process is idea generation, idea screening, concept development, testing, up to commercialization. So now in this type of a question where you are not required to look or to go back to the case study, what I would advise you is to think of examples when you write when you're actually describing your stages. Anything that doesn't have, or any question maybe that doesn't refer to a case study, try to think of as much examples as you can, because examples now would show that you know what you are talking about. It is not just the theory that you've just taken from the internet and pasted it. No. So the examples would actually give you that extra mark. They also look for what? For the examples when you write when you write this kind of, when you answer this kind of this kind of questions. Now here, the first one is what? Is idea generation. Now this is the first stage. Remember, you are comprehensively discussing the stages. So now this is our first stage. So we are going to talk about 8 stages, and it's what? It's 20 marks. So sometimes how they allocate the marks, they can say 2, they can give you even 2 marks each, which gives you 16 marks. And maybe they can look how you presented your work from like the structure that I'm talking about. Maybe they can give you even 2 marks for the introduction. They can give you 2 marks for the conclusion, or maybe for presentation. So it's very important to present your work very neatly and to have a proper structure that that flows from introduction up to what? Up to conclusion. Now here we have idea generation. That's the first stage that we are going to what? We are going to talk about. Now this is the first stage of the what? Of the process for product development. This is where it all starts. It is actually the application of methods and ideas to generate, ideas. So you use various techniques here to ensure that you obtain or you generate different what? Different ideas from different what? People. You are trying to get as many ideas as what? Is possible. So the sources can either be, you can get the sources of the ideas either internally, externally, or what they call idea crowdsourcing. So we said last time that some of the examples of internal sources are brainstorming and focus groups. You're trying to get information from your employees within the company. So sometimes you can what? You can brainstorm, and then we say that brainstorming is actually gathering people from different departments within the organization, so that you get their views with regards to whatever product that you intend to develop. And I think I gave an example of an assignment where I say people can gather around maybe from different disciplines, some from engineering, some from finance. Maybe you are all doing a business communication course. And then so now we have been given a group assignment, and then you have to brainstorm, but your brainstorming is from different people. And then there's also what is known as the focus groups. The focus group now is different from brainstorming, because here you are looking at a specific group with similar characteristics. For example, if it's a marketing assignment, you will do it with people from marketing, people that knows marketing. You are not doing it with with other people. So and then there is also what is okay, this is internal source. And then the external sources, that's when you get maybe information from your customers or from the suppliers. How do they feel about this idea? What is their view? And then you get the information from from these customers. And then crowdsourcing is just a combination of the two, internal and external. You just do it at once. You get the sources from the external, you get the other sources from internal, and then you come up with with different ideas. Okay, fine. You can now see that it is there in the in the study guide. Let's go back to our Word document. Right here. Okay, what have I done here? Right. So we've spoken about idea generation, which is the systematic search for new product ideas. Now we come to the next stage, which is idea screening. Now at this stage, what is happening now is that not all the ideas that you get from idea generation are effective. Some of them are what? Some of them are poor. They cannot be they cannot be used. So at this stage now, you are trying to screen those ideas so that you come up with with a better with a better what, with better ideas. They are saying here, for instance, by surveys and focus group interviews, companies can get early insights whether their ideas might meet customer demands in a better way than existing products. So by using surveys and focus groups, you are now trying to see if the ideas that you obtained from the first stage of idea generation, if they are feasible or they are viable for you to take them in the next stage. So you should ask yourself questions. Can these ideas meet the needs and wants of the market or the customers? You see, what is the affordability of the organization? Can the organization afford, if we are to implement these ideas? Are they realistic according to the budget that we have? Do we have enough resources for these ideas? So now when you obtain the right ideas and then you drop the ideas that you think they are not feasible enough, you then further screen these ideas, right? So, but then how do you screen those ideas? You then do what is called product concept testing. They call it product concept testing, right? Now, product concept testing is actually when an organization creates what is known as a prototype. I remember giving you an example. I think it was an example also of an assignment, that when you're given an assignment to do at your school, maybe a marketing assignment as a group. Now, what you do is you write a draft. So when you write a draft assignment, you take it to the lecturer just to show him, to find out if you are in the right track. And then the lecturer can tell you, okay, this assignment is fine, or can you rectify this and this and this? So this is product testing now. It's not the final product, but it is a version of the final of the final product, which you are still trying to still trying to pan a bit. So this is what is known as product concept testing, creating a version of the original product so that you can present it and find out that if it is the right product that you want. So it is not the final product, but it is more like a copy, a photocopy of the original. You see, so that is what is known as product testing, which is stage number 3. And then stage number 4, there is what is known as market strategy development. Market strategy development. Now, this is when now you are trying to come up with a strategy of how to market the product once it is finished. So once the product testing is successful, then you try to come up with that market strategy. How are you going to penetrate the market as a whole by using that's product? So that's when you think about the marketing mix. The marketing mix, which is your product, which is your price, which is your place, which is your promotion. The product strategy, you are looking at the quality and the features. Are these features, are this quality going to be accepted by the market? Are they the right feature? Are they the right? Is this the right Is this the right quality? So this is what you'll be asking yourself. The pricing strategy. What are you going to charge your customers? Are you going to use the penetration pricing because it's a new product? Or are you going to use the market skimming? Now, the penetration pricing is when you enter the market by using a very low price, because the idea is for acceptance. Now, people like cheap things. So when they see something that is cheap, they will try to buy it. Or there is what is known as market skimming. Market skimming is when you charge high prices. Normally, when you target a market with people that have high disposable income, those people, they actually link quality with price. So when they see a low price, they will associate that low price with poor quality. and then they won't buy. So when you're targeting those kind of people, you price higher, so that they know that, okay, fine, if it's a high price, then it's what? It's high quality. So those are some of the things that you'll be that you'll be trying to look at. And then there's also the place strategy. This is something to do with the convenience. How convenient is your product to the to the customers? Where are the customers going to get your product? These are some of the things that you'll be looking at when you are at the marketing strategy, strategy development. And then the promotional, how are you going to communicate the product to the customers? This is where you are trying to position the product. This is a very, very important aspect, because this is where loyalty is built. Once you create or you position the product in the positive minds of customers, then you are assured that your customers are going to be loyal to your to your brand. So this is where a brand loyalty is is built. So this is a marketing strategy that you would think of for your new product that you are developing. And then there is what is known as the business analysis. Now it's not enough for a product just to be accepted in the market. There's certain factors that you have to consider. Remember, the whole purpose of an organization is to make to make profits. So you should conduct a business analysis in terms of doing cost projections, sales projections, how much is producing the product, delivering it to the market, how much is it going to cost you, how much is it going to cost you to pay the salaries, and all those things. You project your sales, you project your revenue. Is this product going to be feasible? Am I going to break even? Am I going to get a profit? Because being accepted in the market is not enough if I'm not going to get to get profits. So you do a business analysis just to determine or to ascertain if indeed you're going to make a profit out of that out of that product. So once that product is going to make profits for you, then you can now develop the product, which is our next stage, product development. So at this stage, once you are satisfied with the analysis, and then you've determined the attractiveness of the product or its ability to accomplish the objectives of the organization, which is to make profit, then you can produce the product. At this stage, the marketing department can present information to the production or the engineering department to say, this is the product that we want. This is the specifications that we want. Can you produce this product? We want these quantities. We want these features. We want this quality. And then the engineering department would produce the product, right? And then once the product has been developed, has been produced, there is now another stage of test marketing, which I think I've reiterated last time, that you must not confuse it with that product concept testing. This one now, you are testing again, but in this case, it's no longer the draft version. It's now the final product. You are now introducing this product to the market just for them to test the final product. So before you release it to the bigger market, you first of all introduce it to the small market, so that you give them the sample of that final product to see if the people still accept that product. And then you get feedback. If the customers like the product, if there is any modifications that is suggested or that needs to be done, and then you fix whatever that needs to be fixed. If it doesn't need to be fixed, then it's fine. Then you know your product is ready to be released to the what? To the bigger market. So once you have done that, you now go to the final stage of product development process, which is commercialization. Now, at this stage, this is now when you are launching the product, when you are now releasing the product into the what? Into the bigger market. So basically, after you've done your what? Your testing, and then there is some adjustments that needs to be done, and then you've done that, and then you launch your product. You've completed your new product development process. So if you do that, then you would have answered your question. You've written all the 8 stages, you have explained them, and then you write your conclusion. So, and then you conclude here in your own way. What you do is you tell them what you have told them. You just summarize what you have told them. You just, it all depends on you, on how you write, but the conclusion, normally you're just summarizing, like to say, in conclusion, the 8 stages of new product development as discussed in the essay include blah, 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 blah. Even if you do that, it's what is still fine. But if you want to be stylish and whatever, is still fine, as long as there is a what? There is a conclusion. So remember, introduction and the body which comprise of the headings and subheadings. I always advise people to make sure that you have your headings and subheadings so that it becomes easy for whoever is going to mark. If you write just a flat essay without headings and subheadings, sometimes it reflects badly, especially in terms of the presentation. Sometimes the marker can get bored in marking your work. So it is very important to present your work in such a way that it makes it easy for whoever that marks your essay to what? To mark. So basically, this is the stages of new product development process, which I think is not a problem to you, as I think it's still fresh in your minds. We talked about this just a couple of weeks ago. So is there anyone with a question before we go on the last question? Because we have to finish up the last one. Let me load the questions again. Oh, where is the question? Okay. Just bear with me a bit. Okay. Right. The last one, I think it's question number 4, is asking here, identify and explain the macro environmental factors that will impact on a what? On an organization. I think this one is also straightforward, and I don't think it will have a lot of problems, but I think it's on, if somebody can assist us, I think it's on Unity 3. Let me check in the study guide. Let me check in the study guide. Okay, here we go. I think it's on unit 3. Okay, so it's under analyzing the marketing environment. So basically, we are looking at the macro environment. We are not looking at the micro. We are looking at the macro. So it's very important when you read the question. Sometimes you can get too excited if it's an exam, and then you think that it's written micro, and then you quickly start to write your answers, and then later realized, oh, it was not micro, it was macro. So take your time when you read when you read the question. So basically, the macro environment, you are looking at things like your Pestel analysis, which is basically your political factors, your economic factors. Let me go to them. Right, this is the macro environment. So you're looking at demographic environment, economic environment. You're looking at the natural, the technological. You are looking at the legal environment. Yes, the cultural environment, and. So let's try to answer the question. Right. This one of the Pestel, it's quite an interesting one, because I always encourage people here to be as more practical as they can. It's very important as a marketer to know what is happening around you, because every marketing decision is done in accordance to what is happening both in the internal environment and the external environment. But in this case, we're going to look at the external environment. Now, the macro environment are those forces or those factors that actually impact the operations of an organization, and the organization does not have any control over them. An organization cannot have any control of the politics of the country or the economy of the country. It doesn't have that control. So it is very important to study those factors so that you make decisions. But in this case, what we want to talk about is how they impact an organization. How does politics, the political environment of the political environment of in a country affect or impact an organization? How does the economy of the country affect the operations of an organization? How does the demographic, the social cultural, the technology, how does it affect the operations of what? Of an organization? Now, like in any essay, just make sure that you have your introduction. Here, I'll leave it to you. You will introduce the essay, and then once you introduce the essay, you then introduce also the diagram. Just make sure that these macro environmental factors can be illustrated by figure. Remember, it's now question 3. So when it's question 3, automatically this becomes figure 3.1, which is the macro environment. Right? You bold it. I always prefer to put it in the middle. And then make sure there is a source here. Always, especially if it's an assignment, make sure you have your source. Now let's talk about the political environment. Some call it factors. We are talking about, okay, political environment. Now, what are political factors? Now, basically, political factors are those actions of a government that affect the operational capability of an organization. Now, what are those actions? It is the government that enforce tax policies. It is the government that enforce laws in terms of how an organization should work. It is the government that enforces tariffs, or what they call the fiscal and monetary policies. Those are maybe in the economic environment, but these are the actions of the government that affect the operations of an organization, because you don't just operate in an environment that doesn't have laws. So there are certain laws, there are certain actions that from the government that governs the way an organization work, and those actions, they've got a certain impact on the organization, either positively or negatively. The word impact doesn't necessarily mean something that is negative. It can also mean something that is positive. So when you have this kind of a question, I always prefer to use some examples, especially those that I read in the newspapers or that I watch on the news and stuff. So I've defined geopolitical factors as actions of the government that affect the operational capability of the organization. And I've given you examples of those actions, which is your tax policy, trade, there are many of them. So the political stability of the country is a crucial factor in terms of how a business operates. Now, I've given an example of in the South African context. Remember, they just say political factors. I mean, macro-environmental. They did not say, is it in South Africa or what, but we are in South Africa. So I would prefer that you give South African examples. So for example, in the South African context, the political climate is generally stable, right? However, there are some pockets of instability that have been experienced in the country, which can have an impact on the operations of a company. So one can argue that is just you're arguing. Remember, if you're a marketer, if you are in academia, you should be able to argue, to critique, as long as you can provide, you can support whatever you are saying. One can argue that the sending of the former President Jacob Zuma to prison was politically motivated, as it resulted in the eruption of what? Of violence. So how does that impact the operations of a what? Of an organization? Such instability or such actions from the community as a result of politics can affect the operations and the distribution of the products for the firm. For example, some can, when people toy or when they do the protests and stuff, they sometimes close the roads. So there's no car or truck or whatever that can pass. So it affects the distribution of what? Of goods or products, hence affecting the operations of what? Of the organization. So also there are political factors that affect in organization, in the sense that in a company, when a government enforces laws, a company must abide by those laws. If it's a tax policy, a company should ensure that it's registered with what? With SARS, in terms of VAT. So these are some of the government actions that affect the operations of a what? Of an organization. An organization must abide by the rules of the land, must abide by the laws of that particular what? Particular country. So it impacts its operations, because you are not just operating haphazardly, but there are certain laws that were enforced by the government that affect the what? That affect the operations of the what? Of the organization. So there are so many examples of the political factors that you can what? that you can think of. There are plenty of them. And then there's also the economic factors. Now, in terms of the economic factors, these are issues that include interest rates, exchange rates, inflation, unemployment, and what? And economic growth. Now, as you all know, the emergence of the COVID-19 pandemic has also affected the economic growth of the organization, or I mean of the country. Why? Because many companies, because of the forced closures due to the national lockdown, some of them were forced to close their doors. Some of them, they ended up retrenching They ended up retrenching people. Examples like South African Airways, SAS, where people were retrenched. Examples like SABC. So these situations, they actually affect the operations of of an organization. If it's an organization that is in the retail sector selling whatever they sell, the unemployment of people that are caused by maybe the shrinkage or the recession of the economy affect the demand of their products, because the people would not have now, who have low purchasing power, they won't be able to buy. So it is an impact on the on the operations of the organization. If it's interest rates, that is the cost of borrowing, it means that an organization, maybe if it wants to borrow money from the bank, it's actually very difficult for them, because the interest rates are so high. The amount that they're going to return to the bank will be so high that it might affect even their financial, or it might constrain their financial capability. Exchange rates, if your company is into exporting, if the exchange rates are not stable, it actually affects in terms of when you are changing maybe your currency from rand to the US dollar. You find out that if there is a lot of fluctuations, it distorts the currency, and then it can affect even your business. And then inflation, high inflation rates means that the prices of the products are very high, which also causes the cost of production for your products to be very high. Because when the inflation is high, if you are a company that imports, it means that it will be very expensive, because if there is high inflation, it means the strength of the currency is actually decreasing, which means that you need a lot of rands for you to fetch just a few dollars. So it becomes expensive when you are importing, especially when you are paying in US dollars, which means that you have to fork out a lot of rands so that you can buy maybe something that cost a few US dollars. So that's the effect of the of inflation. So if there is inflation, it does have an impact. And if the inflation is stable, it has a positive impact on the organization as well, because it means even their pricing is very stable, their cost of production is very stable. It's a positive impact to the organization. The same as interest rates. If the interest rates are stable, if the exchange rate is stable, it also has a positive impact on the on the organization. So the unemployment rate caused by the COVID-19, it also is then affected the buying capacity of the buyers, then having an impact on on the organization. And then the economic growth, mostly here in South Africa, the president has been trying to attract a lot of investors in the country, so that at least there is economic growth. When the economic growth is shrinking, it means that even the unemployment rate will be rising up, because the total goods and services produced in the country is low. So the economic growth is shrinking, which causes unemployment. So this is basically how the economic environment affects or impact the operations of of an organization, right? So I wrote here on a positive note, the South African Reserve Bank has kept the interest rate stable. Okay, now you are being practical. You are now explaining what is happening right now. You see, when you do your research, you know what is the current interest rate, you know what is the current inflation rate in the country, how is the exchange rate performing and stuff, and all those things. If you have it in mind and then you apply it in the essay, then whoever is going to mark can see that it's not, you are not only talking something that is just theoretical, but you are talking something that is practical, that can be applied. So it's very important to actually read widely in terms of what is happening, the current affairs and stuff. It will become easy when you answer this kind of question. It becomes natural. It's just natural because you know what you're writing. And then there's also the social environment. Now, the social environment, it has to do with the dynamics within the society. Things like some they incorporate social environment and the demographic environment. The demographic environment has to do with your population, your age and income and stuff. And social also, in a way, it also has to do with how the population is distributed. But anyway, it also has to do with the living standards of the people. Like here, I've given an example of the deteriorating economy of South Africa, which has been escalated by the COVID-19 pandemic, and also allegations of corruption. Allegations of corruption by government officials is caused untold suffering to the ordinary citizens. So the unemployment rate is increasing at an alarming rate. You're talking about the social dynamics here. And the unemployment has affected the youth, right? Which is causing a national tension as people are not happy. But then how does that impact the operations of the organization? Youth unemployment, how does it affect the operations of the organization? Now, due to high employment rate and the continual deterioration of the standard of living, there is going to be social unrest. There is going to be a lot of toy. There's going to be a lot of protests, which then affect the operations of the business. In this case, some workers also might demand higher salaries from the organization because the cost of living is going up. So it affects, because here in South Africa, there are trade unions. So there are unions also who would advocate for higher salaries for their employees because of the high cost of living that they are facing. So it's a social setup, which then affects the impact of the organization, because the organization has to ensure that they maybe raise salaries for their employees or maybe they have to deal with social unrest. Like, for instance, an example of a social unrest is the looting. Remember the looting that happened both in Joburg and in Durban, and many of these organizations, some of them were even destroyed. So these are some of the social unrest that happens, especially when socially people are not happy about whatever that is happening. So this is an effect. An organization cannot control it. It's beyond its control. So it then affects the operation. It impacts the operations of the organization, right? And then we have technological factors, right? Now the technological factors, we are talking about, the development of technology in the country, and South Africa is one of the most developed countries in Africa in terms of technology. Technologically, South Africa is way ahead, right? So what implications does that have on a what? On an organization, right? It means that an organization can innovate, can be creative enough to produce or to advertise their products in a way that is faster than the traditional methods. Remember, we spoke about the digital age that last time, right? So here I've written they've been significant inroads in terms of the mobile software here in South Africa, in terms of the security, the banking service. You can see the services at the bank, highly technological. You can do everything by the phone. You know, it impacts positively to the organization because it's offering a good customer experience. Customers are now experiencing are now having good experiences because of this high technological advancement. So there's now the issue of shopping online. Here in South Africa, there's a significant rise in shopping online. So this is an advantage to the organization because the products can be purchased online. And then you mitigate that issue of the COVID-19 pandemic, which discourages human contact, right? So the technology, however, it comes with certain drawbacks. There are issues of cyber attacks. There are issues of hacking of the of the system. I remember it happened at Standard Bank, where there was some hackings and stuff some years back. So those are some of the disadvantages that comes with with technology. So that's how this environment affects the operations of an organization. And then we have the environmental factors. I think they call it the environmental, the ecological factors, or the natural environment. Now, an organization is impacted by these factors because there are certain rules that they should abide in terms of protecting the environment. So it affects their operations because they cannot just operate as they wish, right? I always give an example of the floods. If the organizations that operated long back were responsible enough, those floods would have not happened. So these are some of the environmental factors. The government would now come up with environmental laws that govern the way the organizations should operate, so that the environment is protected. So it impacts the organization because it cannot operate haphazardly. It has to abide by the rules of the government. And then there's legal factors. The legal factors are more or less the same as the political factors, because at the end of the day, it is the government, it is the action of the government. It is actually the government that enforces those laws. So there are certain laws of the country which the organization has to adhere to in order to operate smoothly. Right? I had given an example of SASCO. There's a law about maize. They call it a hydrate product and stuff. So there's a legislation in South Africa that provides that maize meal must have vitamin B. Right. So when you're operating, so SASCO has to make sure that their product, their maize meal, has vitamin B. So it actually is just an example. It affects the operations of the organization. So basically, these are there's also the demographic factors, which I did mention that it's also more or less the same as the social factors, but they focus much on the population size, and they also focus on the age, the income size, and stuff. So as an organization, you have to know the size of the population, the size of your target market, and also the income level of the target market that you're operating. So the income level, I think I've explained it in the economic factors. so these factors, they actually go hand in what? Hand in hand. So they affect, they impact the operations of the what? The organization. How many have we talked about? I think we've talked about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if you explain it like this, you list this, the fact that you have identified the political factors, though, they are just marks on their own, and then you explain, then there's other marks. So you should, in these types of questions like this, you should try to maximize it, even to get 20 out of 20. Any question that is, especially these questions that are straightforward, try to maximize it as much as possible, even to get all of the marks. If you don't get 20, at least get 19 or 18, so that if there is a certain question that you are not sure of, you know that at least there's a question that is covered up that particular question. So basically, that's the macro environment. I don't know if there is anyone with a question. Right, so what I'll do is, I'm sorry that this question paper came to you a bit late. I think it won't happen again. I will make sure that you get it as early as possible, so that when we start the lecture, I think everyone would know. I think on the next lecture, I would really appreciate your inputs as well. For today's lecture, it's fine because you didn't have the time to look at the questions. So, but basically, I think we can call it a day and meet again next week. I will try my best to make sure that you have it even this weekend. The next questions.
I've noticed that when you answer the questions now on all of them, it's like you were busy putting the diagrams. Is it crucial? Must we always, where did you get this one? The last one that we were doing, I'm trying to check in my study guide. Where did you get it?
Oh, okay. Well, it's not as crucial, but I think it actually adds to your your presentation. This one is not in the study guide, though. I just took it from I think I took it from the internet. But it's not like compulsory for you to have the diagram, but it's a nice thing just to it adds on your presentation.
So it can end me maybe 2 marks somewhere.
Yeah, at least if there is a diagram, I advise you to actually to include the diagrams. If you can have the diagrams, please put it there. Right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Right, it's already 20 minutes to 9. So let's meet on Thursday again. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, let's call it a day. Thank you so much. Let's meet next week.
Thank you. Bye.